All right, welcome. When you think about organizational design, it can feel like this endless world of theories and buzzwords, right? But what if we could just cut through all that noise? That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to break it down into 4 fundamental ways that really every organization is built. Let's dive in. You gotta love this quote from the legendary baseball catcher Yogi Berra, and really, it gets to the heart of what we're trying to do here. See, we're not here to make things more complicated, to add more slices to the pizza. No way. Instead, we're going to take that whole pizza of organizational structure and just cut it into 4 simple, easy-to-digest pieces. 4 pure types that help us make sense of the whole thing. Okay, so if we agree there's no single best way to organize things, then what are the options? What are the fundamental choices we have? Well, the thinking we're diving into today boils it all down to just 4 core types. And here they are. These are our 4 fundamental forms. And you can think about them like this. You got your corner diner, that's a personal enterprise. Then there's the fast food franchise, which is a perfect programmed machine. The fancy gourmet restaurant that lives and dies by its chefs, that's a professional assembly. And that special one-off catered event, well, that's a temporary project. So while we'll eventually get to all 4, today we're going to zero in on the first 2. It's the classic showdown, the super agile, founder-led startup versus the massive, ultra-efficient machine.
All right, so let's start where it all begins, right? With the birth of an organization. This first type, it's all about one person's driving vision. It's nimble, it's totally intuitive, and everything revolves around that one person at the center. This, my friends, is the personal enterprise.
And this quote right here, Terman's Law, it just perfectly nails the whole philosophy. See, a personal enterprise isn't about getting 7 people who can each jump 1 foot. No, it's about finding that one person who can jump 7 feet. That's your chief, the one extraordinary individual who can make those huge leaps and literally pull the whole organization forward with them.
And here's what's so interesting about it. A personal enterprise is often defined by what it doesn't have. It actually fights against formal structure. There are no complicated control systems. Instead, control is just direct supervision. The chief is right there, personally overseeing everything.
And this just shows you how wildly different it is from your typical big company, right? You won't find a lot of formal rules. There are no thick employee manuals. Heck, a lot of the time there isn't even an org chart. The chief might have like dozens of people all reporting directly to them. And decisions? They happen fast. They're based on gut feeling, on seizing an opportunity, not on some long drawn-out analysis.
And once you know what to look for, you start seeing this structure everywhere. I mean, it's the classic Silicon Valley startup for sure, but it's also that social enterprise launched by a really passionate founder, or even an old established company that's in crisis and brings in a turnaround CEO to just take charge. Even a massive company like Apple under Steve Jobs was basically run this way. He had one P&L for the entire company, and he was famous for being deeply involved in pretty much every little detail. I love this quote from the founder of Panasonic. It's just perfect. Because leaders in these kinds of organizations, guys like Matsushita or Steve Jobs, they're masters of both the huge, grand vision and the tiny little details that actually make it all happen. They just get it. They know that both ends of that spectrum, that's their job. Okay, so what happens when one of these successful personal enterprises starts to grow up? When it gets so big that what it needs more than anything else is stability. Well, that's when it often transforms into our second type, the programmed machine.
And just notice the complete 180-degree flip in mindset here. For the entrepreneur we just talked about, uncertainty is your friend. It's where opportunity lives. But for the CEO of a giant like General Motors, uncertainty is the absolute enemy. The goal isn't agility anymore. Now, it's all about predictability.
And that's why the programmed machine is built for one single purpose, to eliminate surprise. It runs on rules, it runs on systems, it runs on control. If something can be programmed, you better believe it is programmed. The whole organization is designed to operate just like a smooth, efficient, and most importantly, a perfectly predictable machine. So what's the blueprint look like? Well, you take jobs and you break them down into the simplest, most repetitive tasks possible. Then you get everyone working together by standardizing absolutely everything. And yeah, there's a clear chain of command, but the real power, that lies with this other group, the analysts. These are your planners, your schedulers, your accountants, the people who actually design the systems that everybody else, from the folks on the factory floor to the managers, has to follow. And just like before, these machines, they're everywhere. Think about mass production car companies or fast food chains where every single burger has to be made the exact same way every single time. Think about airlines, which are all about safety protocols, or banks, or a lot of government agencies. They thrive in places where the world is stable and the work is repetitive.
Okay, so now we've got our two opposing forces, right? On one side, the nimble, vision-driven startup. On the other, the massive, rule-driven machine. And when you put them side by side like this, it really shines the light on the fundamental trade-off that's at the heart of pretty much any organization. Do you want agility or do you want efficiency? So let's break down that core trade-off. The thing is, the very stuff that makes each of these structures so strong is also what creates its biggest weakness. That personal enterprise is dynamic, it's exciting, but it's also incredibly fragile. If that one leader leaves, the whole thing can just fall apart. And the programmed machine, it's a total titan of efficiency, but that same rigid system completely crushes innovation and can be just painfully slow to adapt to change.
Now, this is a really sharp critique, and what makes it so powerful is who it's coming from. Not some academic, but a corporate executive, a guy named James Worthy. His whole argument was that when you take all the thinking out of the work on the shop floor, you basically destroy the meaning of that work. And that leads to all sorts of problems, from sloppy work to people quitting all the time.
But then you see something like this, and it's a great reminder that for every person who feels totally alienated by that kind of repetitive work, there's someone else who finds this satisfying, almost zen-like rhythm in it. I mean, this supermarket checker, she doesn't sound miserable, right? She sounds like she's totally mastered her craft and found her flow. It's just such a powerful reminder that there's no single universal human reaction to these different ways of organizing.
And that brings us right to the program machine's biggest challenge, innovation. Its favorite tool for this is what it calls strategic planning. You know the drill. The thinkers at the top create the grand strategy, and the doers down at the bottom are supposed to implement it. So what's the problem? Well, you can't really separate thinking from doing. It doesn't work that way. So when a plan fails, it's so easy for the top brass to just blame bad implementation. But a lot of the time, the real problem was with the plan itself, a strategy that was totally disconnected from the reality of the people who actually had to make it happen.
Which, of course, brings us to this wonderfully satirical list. It just perfectly skewers that formulaic, quick-fix mentality that gets thrown at these big programmed machines all the time. The whole idea that you can solve these deep, human, cultural problems with a simple 5-step plan, well, that's exactly the kind of thinking that built the machine in the first place, isn't it? So, where does all this leave us? We've looked at the nimble founder and the giant machine. So, what's the right choice? That really is the key question, isn't it? And the answer is, well, there is no single best way. If you take one thing away from this, let it be that. Expecting a big, programmed machine to be a hotbed of innovation, that's like asking a giant cargo ship to win a speedboat race. It's just not what it's built for. Its purpose is efficiency. Its purpose is stability. Each one of these forms is a tool, and the whole game is about picking the right tool for the job you need to do.
And that, of course, brings the question right back to you. Think about where you work. Is it designed for agility and innovation, more like a personal enterprise, or is it built for consistency and efficiency, like a programmed machine? And here's the kicker. Is that structure the right one for the challenges your organization is facing right now?
So, we've explored the founder-led rocket ship and the stable, efficient machine. But guess what? That's only half the story. Next time, we're going to dive into the other two forms, the expert-driven professional assembly and the super agile, custom-built teams of the Project Pioneer. Thanks for joining me.